Update on pregnant woman whose dad told her to move out but still expects rent, by user Euphoric Apricot 3867. So today I came home with a cat carrier for my fat friend. Ed asked, why do you need that? OP, because I'm moving next week. Ed, you have till the 3D or you owe me full rent plus a extra $75. OP, yeah, that doesn't work for me. I'll be out by the end of next week and I'll give you a little more than a prorated amount, but in order to afford your bills I suggest not waking up at 7 AM to go get a 30 case of beer and a bottle of wine. Ed, I'm sick of your attitude. Because of you my mom didn't give me the car she was going to, and now I have to pay the full rent. You're acting like a real asshole, kid. OP, that sucks cuz I'm taking my car and everything that's mine in the house, so I suggest getting things so you can take the bus to work, cook and shower with your own stuff. Also, I'm not paying more than I have been paying to be here for a week. I have a deposit and stuff I need to buy for my apartment. Ed, your attitude is shit. You're so selfish. You better have my money for this month and you better pray you get your place, because next month I'm charging you half of all my bills. I had to just laugh in his face and say I'm off to the gym and work. The audacity is hilarious. He's actually mad his mom didn't give her his old car cuz he was using mine and is convinced I'm trying to fuck his life over when he's the one who said I have to move if I'm pregnant. And as of right now Ed is talking mad shit to me over text because I refuse to clean up after him and all stated above. I'm just doing what I'm told. However, my child will not have a toxic mom and dad. I learned everything to not do via my parents. Wish me luck. My mom killed my fake baby, by user throwaway a wish. This happened in high school when I was like 16. Now I am 26 and I'm still bitter about it because it wrecked my GPA. So when I was in HS I was in home EC for the second year in a row. At my school, we had different levels of home EC, like how there's a Spanish 1, Spanish 2, Spanish 3. So freshman year you did the boiled egg baby experiment, but in the higher level class we got these fancy robotic baby dolls. The dolls had sensors in them in different spots, the mouth, the back, the bottom. We got these key FOBs that were sewed into cloth diapers or built into bottles that when the baby would cry we would the fob across the sensor and the baby would stop crying. The baby also had a sensor in the neck that if the neck went too far back it register it as a broken on your chart. We were assigned the babies for one weekend. At this time I was in marching band and I had games on Friday nights. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to hear the baby cry over the crowd and the band. So I asked my mom to babysit. I showed her how all the key FOBs worked and all that. She said she'd do no prob. So I go to the game, do my marching band stuff, I go home. I get the baby back and my mom says that everything went well. I noticed when she gave it back that the baby did have some different baby clothes on, and she said they'd gone over to my aunt's and the cousins had dressed the baby up but that she watched them. I got a little annoyed. Told her it wasn't a toy, that it was my grade, but she said told me to calm down. So the rest of the weekend goes by, I take care of the baby and I didn't miss anything. To be fair, I'd been watching kids since I was 14 and my job at the time was at a daycare. I got Fridays off for games and they were closed weekends. So Monday rolls around, we turn in the babies and they print out our e-ports from the computer. I got like a really low score. Like a 57 or something like that. I failed, that's for sure. I'm so mad because I didn't do anything wrong. I hadn't missed a thing. On the printout it said that baby's neck had broken like over 10 times, had been left in a dirty diaper like 8 times and hadn't been fed around the same amount. To say I was shocked was an understatement. I knew I wasn't the one who'd done, or I guess not, don't any of that. So I obviously confronted my mom, outraged. She had tanked my grade and I was an A and B student. She denied the whole thing and my stepdad tried to say it was me who did and I was just trying to push blame on my mom because I didn't want to admit I did something wrong. So I went back to my teacher and asked her if she could print out another list of the infractions, except this time with timestamps on them. She said she could. I also asked that if I could a letter from my parents saying that they had done all that stuff to the baby that she could pass me, and she said she'd have to see. So I get the paper and sure enough every infraction was in between the time I'd dropped the baby off with my mom and the time I picked it up after the game. I took the paper to my mom and confronted her. I remember my stepdad had the audacity to say I had faked it somehow. But I finally got her to admit that she had basically let the little cousins take it to their bedrooms and play with it like it was a baby doll. All while she and my stepdad got drunk with my aunt. They wrote the letter and I got a C. But like I'm clearly still resentful. I basically swore that day to never trust my mom with my future kids. This was also when I started to wise up to just how bad my mom and stepdad's drinking was. I had been dealing with it but been in denial since like the 8th grade. But that fall it really just hit me how unreliable they were and how much they prioritized their drinking over me. That time my mom decided that she didn't have to pay rent, by Userifus 8658. This was about 20 years ago, in late 2000 or early 2001. My mom was one of these people who simply didn't understand that she had to pay for things. She was famous for running up huge phone or power bills, not paying them and getting mad at the company when they turn the service off. Her reasoning was that they should understand that she needs the phone or power or whatever. To her credit, I guess she did pay her rent, though she wasn't happy about it. Not in the way everyone is unhappy with paying their rent, but like she deeply resented it. She took it personally. One day, she learned about the legal concept of squatters' rights. That is a thing, and in California it means essentially if you live in an abandoned property and improve it for 5 years with no owner coming forward, you can claim ownership. What she thought this meant was that if she stopped paying rent, she'd become a squatter and have the right to stay. Needless to say, her landlord disagreed. She did eventually give in and start paying her rent again after a couple months, but needless to say she didn't stay in that house much longer. My mom gave me up for $2,500, by user the Red Paladin 101. So, backstory, my mom and dad split up when I was roughly 9/10 years old due to my mother cheating on my father when he was out of the country. He's a pilot. At the time, it was me and my 2 older sisters, one of which was already an adult, so my other sister and I were left under my mother's custody due to my father always flying and not wanting us to go through moving all the time. As far as the details go, my dad not only paid my mom child support but also paid off the house. Despite having little money to take care of himself, he paid my mom more than what he actually owed. Yet, my sister and I never saw that money. After the divorce, my mom turned to many things, sleeping around, gambling, drinking, and eventually meth, though that didn't last long due to my dad finding out and threatening to take us away. My sister practically became my mother since ours decided to step down from the plate and I was too young to take care of myself. When my sister left for college, all the emotional abuse she took ended up falling on me, which sent me into a loop. Due to my sister taking all the damage, I typically saw my mother as, well, my mother. My young brain didn't notice how often she didn't come home at night, or the lack of food in the house, or the constant weeks I'd wear one outfit since I didn't have other clothes that fit. I didn't notice how not normal this is. Heading into high school, it became more and more obvious this wasn't right at all, yet I still loved my mother. We bantered and ate fast food together and she was proud of my accomplishments. But she had her moments, dropping huge hints that I'm too boyish like my dad, refusing to let me cut my hair, pressuring me into wearing makeup, heels, dresses, convincing me I don't need therapy as my therapist at the time made me uncomfortable, one of those Christian therapists that made everything about God. While I am a Christian, it didn't help the conversation, and so on. Meanwhile, my dad met a woman and they fell in love. When she became pregnant with his kid, he moved her to America after my little sister was born and started a new family. I love my stepmom, she's literally the sweetest woman I know, and I adore my baby sister, and eventually my second baby sister. Over time, after spending many nights in their home, I came to realize how much happier I was at their house over my mother's. One day, I told my dad I want to officially live with him. At this point in time, I've noticed how depressed I am and how things aren't normal in my mom's house. When I told my mother this, she was deeply upset and cried, but she understood, or so I thought. That's when everything went downhill. The text messages started, sly guilt trips and remarks on how someone else convinced me to move out, that my father convinced me she was the bad guy. The more these texts happened, the warier I became on talking to her. It got to the point where I would cry after every conversation because I was so confused and lost. One day, she practically trapped me in her car in my best friend's driveway to tell me how my reasons for leaving her were bullshit and that I clearly don't remember what it was like in that house. Cue my memory issues. But enough about that, let's get to the good part, the custody case. Due to me being the last child between my mother and father, my dad no longer had to pay child support. Obviously, they go to court about this. Except my mom didn't show up for many hearings. When she did, she had this bullshit story about how my dad owed her a shitload of money because he never paid the full child support, how she felt pressured to believe him and trust him when he said he knew how much he owed her. He calculated it himself and actually paid more than what was needed. So, if you're catching on, this fight was about money. Here's a fun little thing, my mom texted me maybe a month before this case started about how she desperately wants me to come home, how she will do anything to get her baby back. That aged well, didn't it? Because one day, my mom stated that if my dad pays her $2,500, she will give up full custody of me. My dad agreed to it and it was over. She gave up her custody rights for $2,500. It still stings. I'm still bitter and angry to this day about it, and this case happened years ago. I don't think my mom is aware I know the details on this case, as she, very rarely, reaches out to me as if we still have a relationship to tell me how much she loves and misses me. The thing is, I learned that my mom actually despised me after the divorce because I reminded her of my dad. We have the same eyes and resting face, lol. My mom just loves being the victim and even tried to convince my sister she doesn't remember doing all the stuff she did to us. She even blamed my dad for her cheating on him and said so to my face. I haven't had a real conversation with her since Christmas, over the phone OFC, and haven't seen her in person since maybe before the pandemic. She texted me recently all excited about a gift she got for my sister's unborn baby, and it sent a whole new wave of resentment towards her. I stopped trying long ago to have a relationship with her, as she doesn't try in return and will continue to do so until she admits her wrongs, apologizes, and actually tries to be a fucking mother for once in her life. Until then, my only mother is my lovely stepmom. 3. Mother gets mad because I told her kid sucks at speaking another language, by usera_e1999. Sounds weird, I know. I don't even know if it belongs here, tbh, maybe more in r/amethyst hole, but I figured this is about entitled parents, so why not just try. So to try to keep the story short, I'm German with Arab roots but was born and raised in Germany. My mother tongue is German, but I do speak Arabic enough to have a conversation. I have family who came here from my home country couple of years ago, so of course they can't speak the language, which is perfectly fine. Just so you know, German isn't really easy. They have 4 children and for your information, every one of them is a goddamn brat. Parents don't give a shit of how they speak to you and how they behave. For example, the oldest is a boy, let's call him S, who's maybe 7 years old, so really young. But already so fucking disrespectful. He once spit on me, pulled my hair and even insulted me in various ways. When I told his mother she should watch her kid, she looked at him and said, enough, she doesn't like that. I mean, I of course didn't expect her to beat him or anything, but damn, at least send him to his room, punish him some ways. Kids need to learn that it's wrong to behave that way. To the main issue, yesterday I visited them with my parents and that annoying child came again and started speaking to me in German. They only speak Arabic in the house, but he's in 2nd grade, so he's supposed to be at least speaking a bit. Before he tried, his mother was bragging about how S is probably a genius to be able to speak so fluently. Well, let's say it was something. I honestly didn't understand anything. So I asked him if he can repeat it. Maybe I would understand then, but again nothing. It wasn't even a real sentence, to be honest. I didn't care how that sounded, and, after you read my experience with him, you can probably see that I don't really like S, so I told him to speak to someone else because I can't understand a single word. His mother was watching and got incredibly mad. She started saying how I can't understand because I'm the one whose language is broken. She doesn't speak a word German, so obviously she wouldn't know if that what he said was right or wrong. I said, listen, it's not the end of the world, I'm just saying I don't understand him. He's still young, he'll probably get better once he speaks to other children. Then she went on a rant how I disrespected her child's knowledge and was rude to her. I'm still confused, honestly. Did I say something bad? Was that rude? I just said I can't understand him. How was that rude?